Evening. All set? Good. Welcome to the Historic Preservation Commission meeting on this Thursday, March 13th, 2025. Hearings before the Historic Preservation Commission are quasi-judicial in nature. This is a design review process to determine if the proposed project is congruous with the special character of the historic district or landmark. Decisions of the Commission are based on the record of these proceedings, the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks, and the Secretary of Interior Standards for Rehabilitation. Evidence submitted to the Commission for review becomes part of the record. Appeals of Commission decisions are to the Board of Adjustment of Wilmington and then to the Superior Court and are based on the record. Appeals must be filed within 30 days of the date of the Commission's action. Evidence is received during the evidentiary hearing portion of an agenda item. For those who want to address the Commission are sworn as witnesses to present material and substantial evidence to the Commission. The Chair recognizes those who want to submit such evidence during the evidentiary hearing. Evidence should be directed to the Commission. To ensure that the evidence is properly recorded, please come to the podium in the hall to address the Commission. State your name and address and speak clearly. Adjust the microphone if necessary. A brief reminder that members of the HPC are appointed by and serve at the pleasure of the City Council. Our charge is with respect to the protection and preservation of properties in the city's designated historic districts. We are held to the standards of the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks and per applicable NC state law to determine if exterior changes are congruous with the special character of the city's historic districts. It is important that we deliberate the merits of each request in a manner that provides a record as to the basis for our decisions. Please remember that our deliberations should be centered on how a project meets design standards and whether the proposed change is congruous or is not congruous. Commissioners, if you have received or been made aware of any outside evidence related to any of the matters, please recuse yourself. At this time, I would like to request that all cell phones either be turned off or put in silent mode. I'll lead by example on that. Thank you. I'd like to introduce staff. Gina Essie, Assistant City Attorney. Brian Chambers, Assistant Planning Director. Ben Riggle, Planning Manager. Monica Davis, Historic Preservation Planner. And Amy Bradshaw, our Planning Coordinator. And then if commissioners could please introduce themselves, starting over here with Ross.
Ross Tomaselli.
Stephen Sulkey.
Ashley Wilson.
I'm Chris Yermel.
Joan Keston.
At this time, staff will swear in witnesses that will be speaking this evening.
If I could have all staff applicants and any members of the public, anybody who wishes to be speaking this evening or will be speaking this evening. If you have an item before the commission or you are a member of the public that wish to speak, please stand up, raise your right hand. Do you swear that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
First item of business to approve the minutes from last month. Any adjustments needed? If not, if someone can make a motion to approve those.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second? Stephen, was that a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Those minutes are approved. And then if I'm not mistaken, we go to the first item of business, and that's 614 Market Street, being presented by Monica. I'm sorry, Gina, go ahead. I don't think your microphone's on, Gina.
For the record, there is a quorum present, and for members of the public, if there is a matter in which there is a recusal by any of our commissioners, then there must be a unanimous vote for that matter.
Good afternoon, Historic Preservation Commission members. We have a long night ahead. Okay, So hearing number one, the Henry Clay Bear House located at 614 Market Street is a continuing resource of the Historic District Residential HDR. As such, our revisions to the building's facades and sites are subject to design review to ensure compliance with the district's historic preservation guidelines. According to the Wilmington Historic District Boundary Expansion and Additional Documentation Report, the Henry Clay Bear House is a side passage pediment front gable dwelling with 1/1 sash windows. The house features an attached hip roof extending the roof facade of the first story of the north front elevation. A small window and diamond light adorns the second story of the north elevation, with the gable end is highlighted by the triplet attic window. The proposal seeks to remove the non-historic parking space from the backyard, add a water feature in its place, and improve the area with new landscaping, paved walkway, and fencing. The renderings and the presentation represent the design guidelines and also the features in the materials. The staff report, I recommend that these conditions on the following conditions. The waste concrete from the demolished parking lot should be removed from the property for proper disposal. The existing driveway should not be altered in size or material as a result of this project. No mature trees or historic landscaping shall be removed as a result of this project, and the proposed fence height should not exceed 6 feet. Do you have any questions?
Is this going to remain an architect's office?
I'm s-
Is there any change? It's an architect's office right now. Is it still going to be an office for an architect, or is someone buying it? I'm just curious why they're doing this.
I let the applicant speak to
Okay.
that nature.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Thank you. Could we please hear from the applicant if they're here available?
Hi, my name is Griffin Lyle. I live at 225 Candlewood Drive. Just here to answer any questions you have about 614 Market.
Any questions?
Is it going to remain an office?
Yes,
Okay.
And that's a swimming pool in the backyard?
it's a
Or is it
water feature.
Water feature,
Water, yeah,
okay.
that's all.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
If we can invite any members of the audience to come up and speak in favor or against this item? I'm sorry, sir? Have you been sworn in? Okay, we can, come forward and we can do that here. I think you're going to face Ms. Bradshaw over there.
Raise your right hand. Is testimony you're about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
My name is Jeff Valiant. I live in the property directly behind this location.
Sir,
All
please
right.
stand a little bit closer to the mics.
How's that?
Better.
My name is Jeff Valiant. I live directly behind this home that's being, or I should say office that's being renovated. So I just have some questions about the project. Is this the appropriate format to ask those questions?
Yeah, give it a shot.
Yep. So would like to understand how long the project would take to complete and what kind of equipment's going to be brought into the property in order to conduct the project.
Is that the only question?
Yeah,
That's the only question?
at the moment.
Okay. Actually, I
Applicant.
think if we could have the applicant come up, maybe they could answer that for us, because we wouldn't know. Thank you. And sir, if you could, Mr. Valiant, if you could just take a seat, we'll hear from this gentleman, and then if you need to come back up.
I mean, it would involve taking up a little bit of concrete, so whatever tools are involved with that. And then in terms of time, I'm not exactly sure, but as quickly as possible.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, I think the contractors generally like to get in, get out, do their work efficiently and well, and get paid and move to the next thing. Did you hear that? Is that satisfactory, Mr. Valiant? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, they probably have a landscape. I mean, we have a plan here, so I think the plan is set, and they just now have to dot a couple i's and execute it.
This project is, this location has been a commercial project when you purchased it
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
And so there's not a change of use. So, you know, it's within the bounds of what you're doing.
Yes.
Residential, it's HD.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments from the audience in favor or against, or general questions? Seeing none, we'll move to commission deliberation. Any thoughts noteworthy on this?
I
Someone
went
want
by
to make a
and I
motion?
looked- I looked at what's there now. It is just a concrete slab.
Yeah,
I mean, there's
no, it's a
nothing-
nice improvement.
I move to approve the request to remove parking lot space and install water feature and fencing for property located at 614 Market Street. This request is consistent with the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks, based on the evidence provided, including the application and all attachment testimony presented during the evidentiary hearing and staff report. Conditions 1 through 6.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That passes unanimously, thank you. Second item, please, 503 South 3rd Street, Mr. Regal.
Good evening, Commissioners. We've actually combined 503 and 505 South 3rd Street, cases 2 and 3, into a single case because, or presentation. You'll need to vote on them twice, each project separately. But because they're sister projects, I'm just presenting them as one presentation. The proposed projects at 503 and 505 South 3rd Street include improving the shared driveway, installing new parking pads, and repairing the damaged brick at the rear of 505 South 3rd Street. 505 South 3rd Street, known as the Harris House, is a contributing resource to the Historic District Residential HDR. As such, all facades of the dwelling and parcel are subject to design review. The house is located on the east side of South 3rd Street, one parcel south of its intersection with Church Street. 505 South 3rd Street, known as the Waters House, is a contributing resource to the Historic District Residential HDR. As such, all facades of the dwelling and parcel are subject to design review. The house is located on the east side of 3rd Street, two parcels south of its intersection with Church Street. The applicant proposes to improve the existing overgrown driveway that runs between 503 and 505 South 3rd Street by pouring a new concrete driveway to allow for better access to the property and potential parking areas. The proposed driveway improvement will extend to approximately the end of the front porches of the neighboring houses. To provide parking areas, the applicant proposes to install concrete parking pads 12 feet by 18 feet, approximately halfway into the front yards of 503 and 505 South 3rd Street. These parking pads will allow for safe parking as well as a turnaround spot to allow pulling onto South 3rd Street instead of trying to back out. The proposed concrete for both the improved driveways and parking pads will be standard concrete mixture and match the existing city sidewalk and concrete walkways already on the property. The existing concrete walkway for 505 South 3rd Street will be incorporated into the proposed parking pad for the property. The existing driveway is lined by a low masonry curb retaining wall in a varying state of disrepair. While the existing driveway is sunken in comparison to the neighboring yards, the proposed concrete driveway improvement will raise the elevation of the driveway to match the yard, so no major property grading will be required. The final portion of the proposed project is to repair the damaged brick at the rear of the house of 505 South 3rd Street. The damage, likely caused by subsidence, has resulted in a situation that requires the existing brick wall to be deconstructed and rebuilt. The existing brick will be salvaged and reused as much as possible, and any required replacement brick will match the existing brick as closely as possible. Although care will be taken to match the replacement brick and new mortar, the proposed repairs will be highly visible, so to remediate that, the applicant proposes to use a natural lime wash to cover and protect the reconstructed brick wall. A natural lime wash is recommended by the National Park Service for unpainted masonry because the lime wash allows the brick to properly breathe while protecting the brick and giving it a uniform appearance. If approved, in addition to the standard conditions, staff recommends that the conditions include that the proposed driveway improvement project and parking pads shall be installed with a minimum amount of grading to minimize the alterations to the property's topography, with screening vegetation planned to obscure the view of the proposed parking pads from the public access. Screening vegetation shall be chosen from the city's suggested plant list or approved through the administrative bypass process. No mature trees or historic landscaping shall be removed as a result of the project, and only the brick portion of the rear on 505 South 3rd Street shall be lawn washed. Are there any questions?
It's going to be a solid color, the lime wash? Is that what they're proposing?
The way I understand it, it'll be white, but the applicant can speak
Okay.
to that as well.
What about the concrete on either side of the driveway? The one at 503 looks pretty good. The one that's all crooked is on 505. Are they going to be salvaged, fixed, or removed?
They are going to be, the way I understand it, they will be retained and the concrete driveway will be poured around. They will be like basically boundaries on the concrete
So they're going to
driveway.
repair the one at 505 because it's all cattywampus right now?
I would suspect so, yes.
Now
But you can double
also,
check with the applicant
there
as
is a
well.
concrete apron coming off of 3rd Street at that driveway. It looks like circa 1940-ish kind of concrete. Is that going to remain?
I do believe so. I think they might be putting concrete on top of it, the way the project was described to me. Like they're going to raise the elevation of the driveway itself by
I
putting concrete
don't
onto
know
it.
if that's physically
I-
possible.
I-
Maybe is the applicant here?
Double check with the
Oh,
applicant.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is there parking in the back?
The way I understand it, it's too narrow between the houses to squeeze cars in between.
And to ask the obvious, there's no alley access, obviously. There's surely not
No,
alley
I
access.
do not believe
I didn't
so.
notice on the map. Okay. Anything else?
Okay.
Okay, thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward to speak to this item?
How's it going, everybody? My name is Shane Horan. I'm just here to help answer any questions for the project. I'm the owner as well. Take a lot of pride in our work. I was the owner of 520 Nunn Street, who we won the Historic Preservation Award. So just to give a little bit of insights of what we pride ourselves in our work. So happy to answer any of the questions that you may have.
Happening with the concrete, especially the one on the south side of 507, that's all cattywampus. Is that staying and getting repaired or being removed? And what about the apron?
I'm sorry, you said 507? That was-
503 and
Yeah.
505.
I'm sorry, too many
No
five.
worries, no worries, yeah.
505, not 7.
Yeah, so the apron is going to stay the exact same way it is.
It is, okay, good.
The apron, and then there's an existing driveway that goes probably about 5 to 10 feet up. It's a shared driveway, and then it stops. Or it used to be there, and maybe it's just so overgrown that you can't see it anymore.
Okay.
And so we're simply just, finishing that driveway because it's a shared driveway, and then adding those parking pads. That way it's a safe way for each individual to drive in, park their cars, and then a safe place to turn around and go back out.
Back out.
And then in regards to the back, yeah, we would ideally love to put them in the back, but it's just too narrow to get cars through the back there.
I guess I'm a little confused with the plan you have here because I'm trying to picture the parking pads, not just the driveway, but then how can you keep the concrete curbs on either side of the driveway?
Yeah, so the concrete curbs at the point of where the parking pads will be are actually only about 1.5 inches, 2 inches down. So once the concrete is actually poured, that's actually going to be over that, and so it's going to be seamless. So there's going to be no disruption of those existing concrete areas.
Of concrete above the curb that it won't crack?
It's all completely fallen apart, as you can see in some of the
Yeah.
pictures here. It's kind of not even existent anymore.
Have you looked at gravel or pea gravel or something that's not as, less
Pervious?
impervious to
Yeah, we've
to-
definitely looked into that option. We just found that it would look a lot cleaner as a concrete to match all the existing concrete that's surrounding the properties.
I just think that this concrete has not done well. I don't see it lasting, but, which is, impervious would maybe,
Yeah, I don't know how long that I would assume that concrete there in those images have been there since 1911, since they were built. That's what I would assume.
That looks pretty old.
Ross, do you have any comments or questions about this? Joan? I had a question about the lime wash at the back, I assume it's a solid color? You'd be coating the entire rear elevation then?
Yeah, so, and actually, I know Ben mentioned that it was just going to be the back of the house that's going to be lime washed, but the plan would be to lime wash the brick areas of the property. And we don't have to, lime wash is, I'm sure you're familiar with it, but it's, the more you put on, the more it kind of deepens in colors and covers up the actual brick. So our plan would be to only put like a very light coat on it so you can still see the natural color of the brick, but you still have that little bit of the color difference.
So you're saying on the body of the homes, or this one home, this is
Just the one
505.
home, correct.
It's 505.
That all sides that are now unpainted, uncoated brick, you would be lime washing all of it?
That would be correct, yeah. The brick repairs will, that back half unfortunately was, sunk many years ago at some point, which caused that huge crack in the rear there. And so in order to, replace that property, instead of like covering it up, as we want to repair it properly, is, we have to take that section apart pretty much and build it back. And so that's gonna, it's very hard to match those bricks. You're gonna be definitely able to see that difference of the bricks there.
It doesn't look like any of the brick themselves are actually cracked. Everything cracked along the mortar joint. So two-part. One, could you not save the brick as you cut these out and pull them apart? But I think more importantly, like have you had a structural engineer or someone identify what the issue is to make sure that when you go about doing the repair, it doesn't happen again? Like something's happening down below.
Yeah, absolutely. So the other owner on the property, he's the general contractor. He brought his structural engineer in there, and it just, structurally, the property's sound. It just was sunken many, many, many years ago from when it was originally built.
So I'm arguing against the idea of coating this with anything. I don't think you need to. I just think, I know that you'd be able to take this apart and stitch it back together and put it all back together, match the mortar
Okay.
with the
Yeah, I
type
mean,
end
we can
mortar,
do
and
as
then you won't have to
best
coat it.
as we can. I mean, to be bluntly honest, the other part of it is just the fact that they're identical twin properties, and we wanted to kind of differentiate them from a selling perspective because they are identical to the colors and everything right now. So that process would kind of differentiate them a little bit to where they don't look absolutely identical.
I mean, you could probably be considered for another award if you can go about doing this thing in a way that you gently take the thing apart, grind the joints out, remove the brick, put it all back together, put some wall ties in to bridge that joint where those
Yep.
cracks are, or tuck in some number 3 rebar and remortar, get a matching color on the mortar, a type N, and just put it all back together. I don't think the idea of coating the entire thing for differentiation, for the sake of differentiation, for selling, or because, the mason may not be able to do this relatively simple repair, I would encourage you just to make sure you get a mason that can do this work without cracking additional brick or breaking brick. And if you break a couple of bricks, go to Legacy Architectural Salvage or someplace else and get some more. You should be able to match the brick. And I would just, I'm not in favor of a condition where you're going to be recoating this. And then secondly, toward the front of the house with these driveways, these parking pads out front, these applications have come before us numerous times, and we have rejected these things numerous times. And I think to go about setting a precedent on such a visible street, whether it's a visible street like South Third or not, I just not in favor of parking being placed out front. As a matter of fact, there's an actual standard in the 2.48 talks about basically hard no on putting parking pads in front of a historic structure like this. The street parking, this for centuries or decades at least, this has been, people have just done street parking. I think if we consider approving parking pads out front, it's not just the precedent, but I would imagine that there are going to be other people that are going to be up in arms about it and take this to Board of Adjustment or the local court to fight this effort. I'm just
Except that the only thing is some of the houses we've disapproved, they didn't have a driveway, and these already have driveways there. So you already have that presence in these houses.
They didn't have a parking pad out front though. Of course they had a driveway. That's clear, but there was never parking in the front of this house. It's just
So can we do something with just the driveway and no pad?
Sure. I don't know if
I
that
mean-
gets, yeah.
I think the driveway, cement, concrete, I don't see that as being,
Where's the property line? Halfway in between the two?
Directly right in between the two, it's shared driveway, yeah.
Yeah.
And like I
Is there-
said, the existing, if you go out there, the driveway is already there, and I know Ben's been out there, but it's the apron, and then it goes another, probably here to your guys' desk, and then the driveway kind of goes away. I guess it was just either uncovered or was never, paved,
Driveway
just because
between
it's
two
so
houses is
old.
pointless.
We don't have a picture of the apron, I don't believe, in this.
I'm not sure, I mean, I've got plenty on my phone, but
All right. Yeah, 2.4, standard 2.4 that we're supposed to be judging these things by. Number 8, new driveways should be constructed where they should not be constructed where they did not historically exist. If a new driveway is permitted, it should provide access to a parking area at the lot's rear. You don't put these things out front, so that's my 2 cents, but we
And the
can-
driveway, if it's too narrow to go all the way to the back, I mean, it's pointless when you have two different houses using the same driveway. It becomes
Yeah.
useless.
Yeah.
And you're right, we haven't approved.
yeah, you could probably fit a very narrow, small car throughout the middle of the two, but I doubt you'd be able to get a truck or anything like that back there.
I think it's a thoughtful exercise, and we appreciate, obviously, the improvements and what you're trying to do. I just have a feeling this is going to open up a can of worms, and it's just not appropriate for the district to have parking out in front of any residences like this. Anyone else have any opinion on this?
I agree.
I agree, too.
And more concrete. It's not going to help it.
I agree about the pad. I mean, and the driveway without those was useless because it's one driveway between two houses. If it were one house, that would be different because there already is a driveway. But as it stands, if there's no pad, it's a useless driveway.
Exactly.
Unless there's some agreement, they could do an easement agreement between the two properties that someone has access to be able to park there, I assume, in the driveway.
And that happens all the time. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah,
all shared.
and we own both of them, so we could do that,
Yeah.
as we own it, and we're, if that's, and I understand that completely from your guys' point of view, of looking at it from the front parking spots. If it would be a situation to where we could just get the actual driveway part, good, then.
But normally when there's an easement between two houses and a driveway, you're going somewhere to leave a car.
Correct,
If you have a driveway, you can't leave a car from one house because the other house can't use it.
Correct.
So
it's
is
gonna
there
create
room
fights.
to park a car in the back?
What was that, I'm sorry?
Is there room to park a car?
There's
in-
a lot of room in the backyards.
Okay,
Yeah.
so, I mean, there are plenty downtown that share
A driveway to
a
get to a back.
driveway easement to the back.
Yeah,
And then they park in the back. And they don't concrete them. I've seen most of them, they're either, gravel, or there's maybe a thin
The two strips.
two strips, but
Uh-huh.
Ribbon
there's
driveway.
not solid concrete, because then you're messing with the impervious surface, and you're dealing with flooding and all kinds of things that, between the two houses, that don't need to go on. But yeah, a shared driveway is done all the time.
Do you know how much room that you guys would like to see for that to be able to be approved? Like, say there is enough to get like two strips to go all the way back, and then we do parking pads in the rear. Do you know how much room that you guys would like to see for that?
Room in what dimension, which direction?
Like between the two houses. Like say we didn't get obviously
Yeah.
the front ones approved. If there was an option to do the two strips all the way and do parking pads in the rear.
I think whatever you can fit,
Yeah. how-
whatever works for,
Your house size controls that.
yeah.
Okay, so that might be a.
And
That
I
might be an
don't, that could be like a condition, I think, of this. But it's not really what we're not looking at these runners, these concrete runners to the back, but I'm sure that there is a way so that you don't have to come back in front of this commission again to approve concrete runners as a condition. We'll have to
Yeah,
explore
and
that
I'm
in
happy
a
to
second.
come. I'm
Yeah.
happy to come back. I don't mind whatsoever.
Happy.
But but yeah, I mean, whatever we can work
Okay.
out. We just we want to obviously make it appealing.
Okay.
from a resale standpoint as well and
Yeah.
functionality to the end
Okay.
buyer.
And I think of the house, you know, you don't want to hide it and throw a bunch of cars in there. I think if you could get them in the back, shared driveway, they work all the time downtown.
Mm-hmm, exactly. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I own 311 South Third, and we've got a shared driveway that goes to the back. So kind of the same concept.
Sir, there's a bump out on 503 into that area. Do you know the distance between that bump out on 503 and 505? How many feet is actually available between the two houses?
Yeah, I would have to measure that there, because there's a few bump outs from the actual architecture as well as the fireplaces. I would want to say maybe 10, 11, 12 feet, somewhere in that range. It's definitely narrow, but the other thing is that there are some, I believe 505 gas meter is on the right side of that house as well. So it just gets a little bit more, more narrow as you.
They can move a
Gas meters can move, yeah.
Yeah, exactly,
but-
exactly.
And you could do some stuff with other things that may be in the way. I'm curious if this might be something to continue, because then, if we want to consider two runners, strips going back to the back, and then, what parking pads may look like in the rear of the property.
I mean, that would be, I'd greatly appreciate that if we could do something like that, because if we can fit the two runners, and the backyards are very large to where you could easily fit a two-car parking and still have a very large backyard as well. So,
Okay.
you could have the two runners go and then kind of have a T that goes out.
Yeah, I can see.
And I also say in terms,
Both items and then
in
come
terms of
back.
what an easement is, you're going to have to give both properties equal rights to that.
Correct.
Otherwise, you're going to have.
Correct.
And that'll
real-
give you a chance to look at the possibility and get that, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's easy entitlement work. So, do we want to, would the process be, if we're going to continue it, we're not opening it up to public comment, and we would just continue it now by a motion and a vote?
Unless you want to approve of the brickwork today.
Oh, yeah, we could talk about that. I mean, I don't want to
Yeah, hold on.
lime wash the building, but that's just me. I'm one person.
And that's 505, correct?
That's correct, 505. And we can repair the brick, but not lime wash. It's got to get repaired. It's a very large crack.
Yeah. Yeah, but
If we continued both, they don't lime wash, but they repair, then we continue.
I think if we want to let them repair the brick, we probably should do a motion for that, just for that.
we don't need to do a motion. Well, we need to do a motion on whether we want to approve lime wash. Again, I'm just one person. I'm not in favor of
We're
that.
not going to approve that. We're going to do a total
Are we sure?
continuance.
Ross, Stephen, Joan,
No.
it can be repaired without having to lime wash the whole thing, but,
Yeah, that works.
Or if you repair it and see what it looks like, and then if it's a horrendous thing, then we can
If
consider
you're
something else.
going to repair 503 and 505, the
Don't let it be a
brickwork
horrendous thing.
anyway.
Just 505.
Okay.
Yes,
yeah.
that's just the
And
back.
so, and if we do a continuance, it's not going to hamper your work.
right.
A repair is a repair.
So I think we're just continuing this. Like, he's going to proceed, it sounds like, with the repair on the masonry. Just go ahead and, you don't need any permission from us to do that. But if you want to continue this for this driveway issue and some parking spaces out back, we can continue it for that.
Yeah, I'm fine
think we
doing that to where we just approve the brick repairs. Like you said, it might not even need to be approved, but then, and just, we won't lime wash it.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and then we can continue
Okay.
with the driveway.
Someone want to make a motion for continuance on this then?
Motion to continue
Second.
items 4 and 5, 3 and 4,
All right.
Heard a second from,
3.
Second.
and all in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
We
okay,
need a
that
date.
passes. I'm sorry?
We're going to need a date certain on that continuance.
Would that be probably April meeting? Can that work for you? April meeting by the next month, the second
Yeah.
Thursday, come back?
Yep,
Okay. So
When
whatever
did-
that, I don't know what that date is.
When do you have to have things in for the April
10th.
meeting?
so it would just be the exact same process, just explaining the two strips. All
Showing.
the way back with the drawings and everything like that? Okay,
With parking out back.
And what you're going to do in the back.
okay.
Yeah, right.
What does
Need to
sta-
know what you are going to do back there because, it is, the back is purview to.
Yeah,
in this-
okay.
this
And
part
we've
of
got
this
the surveys for them, so we
Uh-huh.
can draw on the surveys of where exactly everything may be.
Great, uh-huh.
Okay, perfect.
But is there even time for this, Ben? Should this be continued to May?
That's what I'm asking staff, when do they need that by?
April 10th is the next HPC meeting.
And when do you need the information by for that to
We would
present?
need it probably 2 weeks before that because we publish a week prior.
Yeah,
Can
I
you
could
do
send
that
it-
by
I
then?
could send it tomorrow if you need me to.
No,
Okay.
take some time with it, yeah. But I don't know, you want to Brian, set the actual date in, what date is that? 2 weeks? 2 weeks ahead of April 10th.
I don't have my calendar in front of me. But we
March
c-
26th.
Okay.
March 26th.
So we'll continue this till April 10th, but by
Okay.
March 26th, if you could have that
Have everything
revised
submitted.
application in for this, yeah.
And I think
Okay.
the less impervious, the happier that if things are going to go.
Yeah.
Okay, sounds good.
Are we good now? Staff, attorneys,
Motion
everyone?
to extend, to continue till April 10th.
Yes. And we approved that.
We did.
So I think we're all set.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you,
Okay.
guys.
All right, thank you, Mr. Haran. Item 4, 226 South 4th Street with Monica Davis.
The house located at 226 South 4th Street is a contributing resource to the historic district residential. As such, our revisions to the building's facades and site are subject to design review to ensure compliance in the district's preservation guidelines. According to the Wilmington Historic District Boundary Expansion and Additional Documentation Report, the house is a side pastures, 4-square dwelling with wide eaves. The hip roof is pierced by a hip dormer and 2 interior red brick chimneys on the south and west sides of the dwelling. The house features a large wraparound porch supported by Tuscan columns. The applicant proposes to demolish the existing deteriorated concrete slab driveway and replace it with an expanded driveway to improve its safety and usability. Demolish and remove the existing concrete slab surface and construct a new brick walkway alongside the proposed improved driveway. Replace the existing deteriorated wood steps with no landing with a new brick face concrete steps and landing to improve the safety and assessing the rear entries of the dwelling. If the commission approves this proposal, the staff recommends the remaining low concrete retaining wall shall be retained. No portion of the proposed brick walkway is concrete curb or the concrete and brick steps will extend into the neighboring alleyway easement, and no mature trees or restored landscaping shall be removed as a result of the proposed project. Do you have any
Thank you.
questions?
Any questions? Thank you. Could we hear from the applicant if they're available, please? If you could come forward and state your name and address.
Good evening. Dave Seymour, 226 South 4th.
Any additional information for our consideration, or do you want to just entertain any potential questions from us?
Oh, no, Monica covered it. I can just say that we looked at various options for this space. It's kind of a dead space, if you know the property. And its only usage is a drive. We looked at patio for dining, for gardens, and I think we've got the best solution here. And just tried to optimize the width of the driveway to the space, to the walkway, which goes to the back steps, which right now are wood, and there's no landing, and you step out into air. So those need to change. So it'll clean up the entire space if you've
Yeah.
ever walked the sidewalk.
I've actually stood over this concrete and sat there and thought about other things to do, and it is a really good plan. It's been a very long time, but it's a great house.
This is what
Yes.
concrete looks like when you
Yeah.
pour it.
Yeah,
And it's getting greater
yeah.
inside too.
Any questions for the applicant?
I'm almost curious why you didn't ask to get rid of more of the concrete and do more brick overall. I mean, this concrete is not beautiful like,
Well, we didn't really want that busy of a space. It's more of a functional space to us. If we were to put, iron fencing around with some vegetation, with some tables or whatever, we would do brick.
okay.
It's not that.
So it's
just
just
not that
utilitarian
space.
and it's there.
It's, exactly.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
Thanks.
Anyone in our presence want to come forward to speak for or against this item? Seeing none, we'll move on to commissioner deliberation. Problems? Everything good?
Yeah.
Joan? Okay, someone like to make a motion, please?
I move to approve with conditions the request for driveway, walkway, and step installation for the property located at 226 South 4th Street. The request is consistent with the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks based on the evidence provided, including the application and all attachment testimony presented during the evidentiary hearing and the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
That passes. Thank you. Item 5, 200 South Front Street.
Hello, again. The proposed project at 200 South Street includes tree removal, retaining wall rehabilitation, and fence replacement. While the applicant uses the address 200 South Front Street, the Sanborn maps showing the building formerly located on the property and the city's numbering procedure has the address as 202 Front Street, or 202 South Front Street, excuse me. The lot at 200 South Front Street is located on the southwest corner of the intersection of South Front Street and Orange Street. The lot is the former location of a portion of the Wilmington Steam Laundry Complex that was demolished sometime after 1955. The subject property is used as a parking lot and is a non-contributing resource to the Central Business District Historic District overlay and is currently used as a parking lot. However, the brick-clad stone retaining walls fit the character of the historic district and can be seen from the public right-of-way. The vacant lot, now used as parking, has brick-clad stone retaining walls along the east, along South Front Street, and the north, Orange Street, sides of the parcel. A chain-link fence has been installed along the top of the retaining walls to protect from potential falls. In addition to the chain-link fencing, several volunteer trees have taken root along the top of the retaining wall along South Front and Orange Streets. The roots of these trees are causing extensive damage to the brick-clad stone retaining wall, including forcing the brick away from the wall in some areas. This has led to brick collapse. The first step of the project will involve removing these volunteer trees from the retaining walls. Once the trees are removed, the brick cladding will be deconstructed in vertical sections that will be temporarily shored up to minimize the potential effects to the neighboring sidewalks and streets. Any damage to the underlying ballast stone retaining wall will be repaired, and as much of the original brick as possible will be salvaged for reuse, while any replacement brick will be the Cambridge 66 brick replacements. Once the brick-clad stone walls are rehabilitated, the existing chain-link fencing will be removed and replaced with a black metal palisade-style fence. Samples of the proposed possible replacement brick and the proposed replacement fencing are seen here. If approved, in addition to the standard conditions, staff recommends that the conditions include that all volunteer trees and shrubs shall be removed to prevent further damage to the restored retaining walls. The exposed brick cladding shall be salvaged and reused to the maximum extent possible. Replacement brick shall match the existing brick as closely as possible. The proposed replacement fence shall be no taller than 6 feet in height, and any required engineering review and right-of-way permitting shall be completed prior to the proposed project being started. Are there any questions?
I love the categorization of volunteer trees.
They were not planted on purpose, let's put it that way.
They volunteered
I
to
think
go
that's
there.
cute.
Pulled out when they were like 12 inches tall.
That would have been a little easier.
Huge mistake. Okay, thank you. Is the applicant available to answer any questions or offer more information?
My name is Stephen Honeycutt. I represent the applicant, my wife Terry. I live on 606 Hillview Drive in Wilmington. First became aware of the property in 2004 when her father had purchased the adjacent building at 208 Front and this vacant lot to service an expansion for his son that was running the Cape Fear Serpentarium at that time. The company I worked for did the architectural design services for that job, so I was taking photographs of this lot in 2004 and saw at that time that the volunteer trees, looking back on it now, were no bigger than my thumb.
Missed opportunity.
There was also a shed abutting the wall along Front Street that was since removed. And this veneer wall, it's our belief that was basically just a screen wall for the back of that shed. The existing ballast stone wall from our research with Sanborn and looking behind the pulling away of the veneer wall, that there is in fact an existing ballast stone wall there, and that's what's holding up the road. And we just want to make it correct. We don't want any more trees to grow and cause imminent any damage to the actual ballast stone wall. The tree roots, in looking at them, are growing horizontally. They have not been able to puncture, from what we can tell, the ballast stone wall, but they have definitely pushed out the brick wall, and it's in a state of failure.
And you'll know more about the extent of the tree roots as you start
Yes.
deconstructing this. Okay. Is anything else?
No,
Any
sir.
questions?
No.
Okay. Joan?
Nope.
I had a question. So you mentioned in the narrative, I think it was, that you had a structural engineer look at this, but did they give you a prescription, like a kind of a design on how to go about? This is not a simple project.
Yes, he designed, I think it was part of our package, there was actually a structural retaining wall with reinforced footing, foundation walls, and yes, we're ready to approach getting a permit for that.
I love I haven't seen so many Sanborn map images in a application, which is really cool, but I never saw an engineered design for this. But anyways, I mean, city engineering is going to review it, and they're going to establish.
But we do have structural drawings.
Yeah, what
It's a
your
design.
temporary shoring wall looks like to sidewalk and things like that. Okay. If I could just, real quick, if you do wind up going heavier in the construction in a massive footing that would be required, that during excavation, maybe reach out to the Public Archaeology Corps and they can come out, just because there's so much history at this site, and they can come out, it's not a requirement, but it's something to consider, that they come out and see what artifacts are there. They're doing an excavation at 10 South Front Street currently, that they're about 7 feet in the ground, and they're at the 1750s level, and sometimes you do these excavations and things on big soil profiles like that, you find all kinds of neat stuff. But Public Archaeology Corps may love to be a part of seeing what happens as it comes apart.
There's an existing slab there now that comes out that used to be the slab underneath that storage shed, and it goes all the way to the brick wall. And we don't know the thickness of that yet, but we'd have to remove some of that in order to put the footing. And I think our design had it coming out 4 to 5 feet away from the
At
brick
least,
wall.
yeah, okay. Yeah, I definitely didn't see that. I didn't notice that in the packet, but it's something you'll have to, regardless of our work and what we're approving, you'll certainly need an engineered design for that. I just didn't happen to see it. Okay, thank you.
There's one thing about the fencing, what we have allocated in our budget this year, we have enough to do the wall, and we were hoping to retain the chain link fencing. It's actually embedded in the sidewalk and the ballast wall, and not the brick retaining veneer. So we were hoping to keep that, and at a later date, put in the steel fencing as our budget allows, because we're already above 100K now just for the wall. So we're hoping that
I
we
would
can
think
come
so,
back
yeah.
at a later time, and if you would approve the fence now, then I wouldn't have to come back.
Oh, sure, yeah, okay. All right, thank you. Anyone here with us that would like to speak in favor of this item or to oppose this item? Seeing none, Commissioner deliberation?
It's fine.
No, I'm fine.
Seems
It's gotta be
reasonable.
done.
Someone please make a motion. The 202, I think that would help, the 202 South Front Street. If in kind of the city record shows a 202, would you be amenable to change the address as like a 10-second phone call or a quick email to change the address? It's, okay.
Okay. I'll motion. I move to approve with conditions the request for tree removal, retaining wall restoration, and fence replacement for the property located at 200 South Front Street. This request is consistent with the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks based upon the evidence provided, including the application and all attachments, testimony presented during the evidentiary hearing, and the staff reports, conditions 1 through 7.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. It passes. Thank you. Item 6, 507 South Fifth Avenue.
The Highland House located at 507 South Fifth Avenue is a contributing resource to the historic residential HDR. As such, all revisions to the building facades and site are subject to a design review to ensure compliance with the district's historic preservation guidelines.
Monica, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but could you bring the mics down a little bit? Thank you.
Is that better?
Sure.
Thank you. According to the Wilmington Historic District Boundary Expansion and Additional Documentation Report, the Highland House is a front gable dwelling with a transform entry. The house features an arched attic vent, paired and single 2/2 sash windows, and a wraparound porch with a pediment entry. The applicant proposes to construct a 2-story wood deck measuring 10 by 10 long by 20 wide on the rear of the house at 507 South Fifth Avenue. An existing severely deteriorated small 1-story porch and wood steps at the rear entry of the rear house will be removed to make way for this deck. You can see here in the image that the neighboring house also has a 2-story wood deck beside it. If the commission elects to approve this proposal, staff recommends the proposed 2-story deck shall not be constructed beyond or above the east rear elevation of the dwelling to minimize its potential view from the public right-of-way, and no mature trees or restored landscaping shall be removed as a result of this proposed project. And I know the applicant couldn't be here tonight due to work conflict.
Okay.
Have any questions for me?
Nope.
Thank you.
Okay, with the applicant not available, would anyone like to come forward to speak in favor of this item or against the item? Seeing none. Commissioner deliberation, thoughts?
No problem.
Now, remember, this is the guy with the roof and all that, I mean, so.
Think so,
He's
yeah.
trying to restore this house, so, yeah, and that back is a disaster.
Ugh.
Don't really want to second guess this designer too much, but they're putting half of the weight of this deck onto the house, onto the existing really old house with a really old foundation, footing, if there's one at all.
Good point.
Like this, typically what you do with something like this is you have another girder just maybe a foot, just outside of whatever footing may be there, have another girder there, so you're basically cantilevering over the deck onto a little bit of weight being borne by the home, but
Well, is that us or is that building code? I mean,
it's not building code because the engineer has a seal on it, and that's basically as good as code most of the time, but it just seems odd. I would never build a 2-story deck like this where you're hanging, again, half the weight of this deck, all of this lumber on an old, if you look at the one photograph on the very last page, page 17, and there were piers on this thing when it was built originally, and then they infilled with some veneer, and I just don't think it's strong enough over time to support half the weight of that deck, but I also don't understand why there are stairs.
I know, that
Like the
that
usable
doesn't make-
space,
yeah.
usually when you build a deck out back, you want to sit out back and enjoy it, and all you've done is like created outdoor pathways to a staircase. Maybe if the applicant was here, they could speak to why stairs are required. I assume that there are stairs inside the house to get to the second floor. I don't know why you take up
agree.
this.
Yeah, I agree.
Except that there's a door
It takes
up there.
away the point of having a back
There's a
deck.
door, just come out of the,
Apartments, unless they're going to divide it into 2 apartments.
it may be.
Still,
We don't know.
we don't know, and it's still, if you look at the house next door, it doesn't have that.
but if there are 2 apartments, it's even less of a reason to have a connecting deck in the back.
Yeah.
So your neighbor that you don't get along with all of a sudden has access to your It's just a couple weird things about it, but without the applicant here, it's really hard to get an answer on some of these things or ask for a little bit of
I
change.
agree. I think they're wasting their money because they're trying to
really
put a deck
strange.
on something that you're not going to be able to enjoy. It's got a stair in front of it.
Stairs outside of the deck.
Should we continue this till next month, see if the applicant can make it?
That would be my suggestion, just to understand some of this and not bear this burden on the existing structure, to just go ahead and put in another girder. It shouldn't really add any significant amount of money.
And the possibility of taking out the stairs.
And
'cause
why
they
the stairs are there.
not pretty.
Yeah.
Sentiment, though, right now, based on what they submitted, sounds like we would deny it. Is it better for us to continue it, or is it better for us to deny it so they would have a chance to go back and, because if we're just continuing it to deny it, I don't want to hold them back further. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Well, can staff kind of point out what we're talking about here tonight? Hint, hint? I mean-
do a similar redesign as cases 2 and 3.
Okay. Is there any way they could get our feedback from this with the continuance to make adjustments?
Yes, I can reach out to the applicant and tell them
Okay.
for the adjustments.
Chris, you're saying a girder. Could they not put posts against the house?
Yeah,
in the back?
definitely posts against the house with another girder across there.
Okay,
Then
that's
you're
what you're
kind
talking
of
about.
bearing
That's why I wanted to make sure.
80% on, 90% on something else, like new construction rather than this old house.
The only reason I can see the staircase is if they're planning to have an upstairs apartment, and that would be the ingress egress for that apartment. I mean, otherwise, I'm not sure why you'd want this, but again, that's not my house, so I don't know.
And you could always do the staircases outside of the deck.
You could,
And then
true.
it's a different story.
Very true. I mean,
Right.
I don't know. I would like to have
Actually
the
have a deck.
applicant here.
Okay. Is there a motion to continue this item till
Motion to
April
continue
10th?
to April 10th.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, where are we?
12 North Fifth Avenue with Mr. Riggle, please. Next item, number 7.
The proposed project at 12 North Fifth Avenue is to extend the existing driveway by installing a gravel drive extension and gravel parking areas at the backyard of the property. The project property is located on the east side of North Fifth Avenue, approximately mid-block between its intersections with Market and Princess Streets. The Smith Alderman House is a contributing resource to the Theater Historic District, HD, and the entire property is subject to review. The proposed project will extend the existing concrete strip driveway by installing a gravel drive into the backyard, and the existing iron gate separating the driveway from the backyard will be retained. The gated opening is approximately 7.5 feet in width, so all but the largest passenger vehicles will be able to access the proposed rear parking area. An arborist report recommends that the cherry laurel group of trees at this location be removed, while the overextended elm should be pruned to reduce the risk of stem failure. The existing backyard landscaping features brick patios, a concrete block planter, mature trees in a variety of conditions, shrubs, and other ornamental plantings. Major landscaping projects were conducted circa 1990 and again in 2021. The photo on the left shows the backyard looked like in 1987, while the photos on the right show it during the major landscaping project in 1990. The proposed project to extend the gravel drive into the backyard will lead to graveled parking areas. While the initial project submission proposed a 2,000 square foot of parking areas, the center plan, because of the arborist's recommendations, the applicant has revised the project plan and is now proposing 3,200 square feet of gravel parking areas, which is the plan on the right.
I'm sorry, Ben, I don't want that, can you back up? Let me see, okay. So you're saying they're increasing the size? Yeah, that one.
Correct.
They're increasing the,
Correct, they are
Okay.
expanding out.
All right.
The applicant is here to speak on the
Yeah.
project as well. So they can answer questions too. These are the areas where the proposed gravel parking areas will be located. Portions of the existing landscape will be retained and preserved, including a low brick wall and steps on the north side of the backyard and a landscaped island in the middle of the backyard, although the arborist report recommends the removal of the eastern red cedar at the center of this landscape island because the tree has been weakened by an earlier stem failure. If approved, in addition to the standard conditions, staff recommends that the conditions include that the proposed driveway extension and parking areas shall be gravel with no concrete or blacktop to be used. The proposed driveway extension and parking areas shall not access the existing paved parking lot at the rear of 18 North Fifth Avenue without a formal right-of-way easement being established between the two property owners. The low brick landscaping wall located on the north side of the property in the backyard shall be preserved and not impacted by the proposed project. And the arborist report from Bartlett's tree experts dated February 20th, 2025 shall be followed to address the issues with mature trees in the backyard. Are there any questions?
So when it says to, I circled that in the application where you mentioned follow the arborist recommendation, but they do leave is it the elm? Is it the elm that's kind of open-ended, that they're not sure if it's,
There's
I visited
another
the
one too
site.
where they
Other
also
things need to be
recommend the
removed.
clearance of vines to see the condition of the underlying tree.
Okay. So not necessarily taking it down, just removing the vines, is that?
On one of the trees, the cantilevered elm that is,
Yeah.
there it is.
Yeah.
I do believe that's a cantilevered elm that they say is overextended.
Yeah.
That needs to be pruned. And the small cluster are the cherry laurel, I do believe.
So the elm is the one that has this
The
curve
neat-
to it on
yeah.
the right?
Yeah,
in
the
this?
string curve.
So they park in the back now, in the gravel parking?
No, there is no parking. There is a driveway. The driveway is just the strip concrete driveway, and it
Okay.
ends at the gate, the iron gate. And it's landscape backyard at the present.
There is in the back, when you go all the way to the back on the left side of the rear of the yard, there is sort of like a,
It says gravel
A
parking.
little gravel area.
Go to
Parking
back
area.
one, yeah, back there, gravel
Yeah.
parking.
That has been, there's grass growing on it now. And it's access from the parking lot on 18
It's-
North.
so the driveway on the north side of the house, they have no legal right to. That belongs to the other property?
You would have to double check with the applicant, but that's my understanding. There's no easement to get.
Just trying to get a better
To get to one from
understanding.
property to the other, there's no easement as far as I
Well,
understand.
why would they have a gravel parking if there's no easement?
People could have been parking on
Just-
it without,
Yeah,
yeah.
that has been
That would be
there
my
for-
guess.
I mean,
just the way it was.
Okay. So there's no way to get in there?
As to that across their property.
That's right, exactly.
This
Yes.
recently is sold or is selling, so I'm guessing somebody actually looked at a survey here and said, oops, I mean.
This
well,
is
we
a
need to talk to
survey.
the applicant.
The applicant is the person who bought it, or the recent purchaser.
Okay, got it.
Okay. Anything else? All set, thank you. Would the applicant be able to come forward to add anything or take any questions?
Hey, good evening. My name is James C. I'm an attorney, and I'm the applicant here. I practice law with my father, Jim C., who's here with me today. And what we're looking to purchase this building for, we haven't purchased it yet, but is to run our law office out of it.
Okay.
So that's what all this is coming from. It's a very nice building, but we couldn't use it as a law office without, sufficient parking there. To some of y'all's questions, I can tell you that this building and the one next door and the one next door used to be all one law office, Marcus and Taylor, and they owned all of this property, and they put that gravel parking lot in there when they owned it all, and an easement wasn't really a concern for them because they owned it all at the
Yeah.
time.
Gotcha.
But they sold it in 2019, and there is no easement to get to the rear, that alley on the, I guess, the north side of the property.
Right.
That's not part of this. There's no
Right.
way to get to the rear at all without an access easement. And Ben did a very good job explaining kind of the situation, and I'm happy to address any other questions you guys may have.
So
Are you getting, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Jane.
Are you
Joan.
getting an easement?
We're in discussions. Nothing's finalized with that. My hope would be that if we got an easement, it would be not 100% necessary to use because you'd have, this
Right.
alternative route, and the easement might just smooth the traffic flow through there. We're exploring, with Marcus and Taylor, maybe having overflow parking for us and for them and a shared kind of parking situation. But we don't really have anything firm. But again, My preference would be this could stand on its own, and that would just be kind of something nice and extra, the easement there.
The iron gates, they're going to remain, and you're just going to be, I mean, you're not going to put electric arms on them or anything like that. You'll just open them during the day and close them at night or something along those lines?
That's correct. I like the iron gates there as additional security. I don't know if there's any kind of historical feature to them. They don't seem to exactly match the house, but
Oh, so they're going to stay, actually hinged the way they are. You'll just keep those open?
yep, during the day
Oh, okay.
open, during
There's
the night
enough room.
closed.
There's enough room for a vehicle to,
No, it's a tight
a
fit.
smaller vehicle, yeah.
It's, I believe, 7.5 feet wide. An F-150 is about 7 feet wide, so if you wanted to drive a big, truck through there, it's going to be a very tight fit. But
Okay.
Well,
Brian Chambers could probably answer. Are they going to be required to, if they're putting any parking out back for this office, will they be required to have an ADA space, a parking pad?
That would be, ADA is enforced by the county, so I'd have to defer to them for that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so that red cedar is proposed to come down because has significant problems, right? You're proposing to remove that tree.
that's correct. It looks like maybe lightning had struck it at
Yeah.
top, and I don't know if any of these pictures you can really see it that well, but it's very damaged at the top, and the arborist, according to them, unsafe.
And you're demolishing some of the existing patio pavers, right? The actual brick pavers that are there, the individual brick. Is there any surface right now that if you were to go straight back up against the brick building next door, the slave quarters, I think it is, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There's a
patio
a
there.
patio. Is that going to remain?
The plan was just to leave that there. It could already
Okay.
be used as a parking surface, and it's kind of already out there. So no, there was no plan to remove that.
Okay, all right. So there's really no material, no hardscaping being demolished except for maybe the bench, like that granite curb bench that's sitting out in the middle, right?
I think that would ultimately, it wouldn't be demolished, but perhaps moved.
Relocated,
To another
okay.
side of the yard. And perhaps the fountain that's in the back too would need to be scooted just a hair.
Okay, gotcha. Okay. Anything else?
When are you planning to close on this? Is it dependent on this approval of this parking?
It is in part contingent on this. The closings currently is scheduled for Tuesday, but it could move. Nothing's set in stone right now.
Anything else?
No, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any members of the audience that would like to come up to speak in favor of this item or against it? Seeing none, move to Commissioner deliberation. Seems reasonable.
Yeah, I mean, and there's not a change of use.
Yeah.
And it's commercial and
Yeah.
they're
Yeah, 'cause,
accommodating commercial.
I don't know, 1 or 2 owners ago, somebody went back there and they were going to do all kinds of stuff without a COA, and that was all stopped. I think there's a cinder block wall there that was kind of stuck in and left, but yeah, this thing's always kind of been a strange little backyard on a law office, and parking will at least help the office at this
Yeah,
point.
adjacent law offices have parking out back too. Okay. Someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve the conditions of the request for rear parking area installation for the property located at 12 North Fifth Avenue. The request is consistent with the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks based on the evidence provided, including the application and all attachments, testimony presented during the evidentiary hearing, and the staff report.
Second.
Aye.
Aye.
Passed unanimously. Thank you. So agenda item 8, I have some professional involvement in this item, so I'm going to recuse myself, and I think there needs to be
I am going to make
Okay.
a motion to appoint Joan Kessler as interim chair.
Keston.
Keston. Joan Keston as interim chair. Sorry, it's been a long day.
I second what's her name over there, and yeah, Joan Keston as interim chair.
Okay, Monica, would you like to tell us about this property?
The Atlantic Trust Building located at 2 North Front Street is a contributing resource to the Central Business District, Historic District Overlay 8 CBD. Only that which can be seen from the public right-of-way, excluding alleys, is subject to this design review. According to the Wilmington Historic District Boundary Expansion and Additional Documentation Report, the Atlantic Trust Building is a traditional skyscraper. The first 2 floors, which are treated as a single story, have a stone base featuring storefront. The middle 6 floors are clad in brick and have 1-over-1 windows. The top story features a stone capitol and decorative stone balusters. The building includes stone consoles, cartridges, and medallions as decorative features. The applicant proposes to remove all existing contemporary stucco panels, single pane, site-built windows, aluminum doors, and contemporary exterior casework from the stone fronts on the first story of the building and restore the west, southwest, and south elevation storefronts with period-appropriate design and materials. This includes installing new double-pane glazing with Marvin's Ultimate Wood picture window on the west and south elevations between the lower rows of the wood windows. Install panels of painted ultra-high density urethane cut and shaped from single blocks with a CNC router machine on the west and south elevations between the upper and lower rows of the wood windows. Remove the stucco of the entry door surround, the stucco panel above, the small contemporary clock, and the rectangular windows above the clock on the angled southwest corner of the building. Install a new wood storefront with CNC-shaped panel with a new feature of a larger clock by Emerald Clock with Roman numerals and half-a-minute dials. This clock features will resemble the original clock of the original building. On the west elevation, install a new wood door entrance to the elevated lobby and install a panel that presents the name of the building toward the North Front Street. If the commissioner elects to approve this proposal, staff recommends the proposed storefront alterations shall match the details as seen in the historic picture of the building, and the proposed replacement windows and doors shall be low E with no tint. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for staff? No? Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
Would the applicant like to come forward and answer questions or explain further? Please present your name and address.
Yes. Good evening. My name is Chuck Laverdier. I am the owner of the 8th floor of the building. I'm the president of the Owners Association. I also run my business out of the building there.
Do you have anything to add to the application?
Nope, that covered it.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the applicant?
The current look of the building, was there any picture anywheres of what this building originally looked like when it was constructed?
So there were some renderings from back then, and those are included in our, can I go through this? Oops. Is this for me to flip through here? The very end of our application had a few photos for reference. That's it? Okay. They're included in our application, and they were in the supporting documents that were for the meeting here.
They are pages
41 and... Awesome. Oh, okay.
Is this like a phase plan, or obviously you're doing the
yeah.
ground floor this go around? Is there a plan to redo the building over time, or?
So there have already been some efforts before I was involved in the building. In, I believe 2018-19, they did some work to restore the windows in the upper floors, and now we're getting to the exterior of the lower 2 floors there.
Great.
Yep.
I'm sorry, because these are way stuck in the back. We didn't
see them either.
We didn't, because it's, okay, got it. Thank you. All righty.
Any other questions for the applicant?
No, that's
Thank you.
good. All right.
Would anyone here in attendance tonight like to come forward and speak for or against this project? That being said, we'll close that and deliberations.
No, it's, that's what I was looking for. Yeah, because this really is kind of a rendition of what used to be there, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exciting.
Looks good.
I move to approve the request for storefront renovation for the property located at 2 North Front Street. This request is consistent with the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic Districts and Landmarks based on the evidence provided, including the application and all attachments, testimony presented during the evidentiary hearing, and staff report.
Someone want a second?
Report.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously.
Okay.
Thank you, Joan. Agenda item 9, 125 South 3rd Street.
The First Presbyterian Church located at 125 South 3rd Street is a contributing resource to historic district residential HDR. As such, all revisions to the building's facades and site are subject to design review and ensure compliance with the district's historic preservation guidelines. According to the Wilmington Historic District Boundary Expansion and Additional Documentation Report, the First Presbyterian Church is an English Gothic Revival church designed by Hobart Upjohn. The church features rustic stone with a gable front and includes a tower and spire. The buttress and windows exhibit Gothic arches. A large rear addition was added to the building in circa 1950 and greatly expanded the interior area of the church. The applicant proposes to remove existing original deteriorated wood windows and replace it with aluminum clad windows on the ground floor of the gymnasium. Non-existing deteriorated wood windows on the ground floor will be removed. The replacement windows will be 6/6 configuration and match the existing aluminum clad windows on the second floor of the gymnasium installed in 1998 and approved by the HBC approval. The windows will be gel wind sight line clad double hung in color cocoa. The windows will fit the original window openings. If the commission elects to approve the proposal, the staff recommends the windows shall be the jet wind skylight clad double hung in color cocoa. The windows shall fit the original window openings, and all glazing shall be low E with no tint.
Any questions for staff? No, thank you. Is the applicant available to add anything or answer any questions we may have? You can state your name and address, please.
Good evening, Nick Goody, 125 South 3rd Street. The only thing that I have to add is maintenance on the east side. With that 0 lot line, that's kind of a portion of that leads us to want the aluminum clad windows. Less maintenance would on that side on the 0 lot line would be preferable. In the past, there has been less than perfect cooperation from the neighbor, and I don't believe there's been an easement or anything towards maintaining those wooden windows, original to 1928 believed. But most of that's probably deferred maintenance as well, admittedly.
Yeah.
Okay.
Anything else? Tad?
I'm just personally curious about one thing. In the drive between that and the other building, actually on the picture they have up right now, there's basement windows down there with grids in their wood. And when I was looking at the building, they don't look in great shape. Are you thinking about doing something with them in the future?
Can you specify that area?
It's in the picture right now. If you look at right down, there's 1, 2, 3, 4 windows right there.
Yes, sir.
Like a ground level?
Yeah, that's an
wood?
area, I would be happy to address that in the future. These gymnasium windows are in a state of disrepair currently where we have vines growing through them, potential
Okay.
for really animals to come through, birds or anything, water elements, anything like that. So that would be, I would love to address that among many other aspects of our property in the future here.
Okay. It's just going, when I was looking at these windows, I saw those windows, and I'm like, not good, but okay. Thanks.
Absolutely.
And it was 1998? Was that right, that the upper floor
That's right.
windows
In
were
19
replaced?
Yeah, there was a COA acquired in 1998 for those windows up there.
Uh-huh. Okay.
And those are aluminum clad as well.
And the property line, so you have this giant magnolia tree. I guess that magnolia tree is on the property of 118 South 4th? Not yours, right? Because,
No.
I mean, is the property line right at the wall, or do you have anything on that side at all?
As I understand it, it's that wall. And beyond that magnolia tree, there's all kinds of evergreen trees pretty much in line with every window. There's 7 windows on that east side, And on the west side, there's those two windows that you see with the cardboard box out
Yeah.
in front of them.
Yeah, those trees are just honestly wreaking havoc. And if you don't have the greatest relationship with a neighbor for whatever reason, that's too bad, because those trees really ought to get pruned back. Like the magnolia now is shedding leaves 12 months a year. It's filling up your gutter and the downspout, and you're going to have water back up and rot out parts of the lower part of the roof and the upper wall. It's, anyways, so that's not part of your property. Have you looked into repair of the existing wood windows? Like, has anyone evaluated them for repair?
Yeah, we've looked into it. If you get out there and look at it, they're really pretty. I think they're probably pretty beyond that.
They're some of them are.
Yes, sir.
So I looked at all the windows, and I've repaired. I can't count how many windows I've repaired that look like similar condition to the ones you're in, and you have. To get a contemporary window, like your aluminum windows on the second floor, the aluminum cladding is already separating and the paint is fading. At some point, those have to be addressed. Like the factory cladding from 1998 is like separating and water's going to get in. So aluminum doesn't mean lower maintenance by any means. So there's the last item, the trust building, the 9-story building, they had their windows all fully restored in 2018 by a company out of Greensboro called Double Hung. And Double Hung does projects down here periodically. They'll come through, they'll have a backlog, and they'll come and do the restoration of those windows, because they're forever repairable. Like something happens with a new window, whether it's this gelled one, aluminum clad, or any new contemporary window, if parts go bad and that company isn't around anymore, you can't get parts, you have to keep replacing the window. And I saw what the prices are on these windows, and I think you can do the repair, and even if they have to completely replace a full sash, which I think is obvious for a couple of these, they just make new sashes to match what you have, and I think you can get out of this cheaper than what you're looking at replacing all these things. But even if you were to replace, I acknowledge that you had aluminum-clad windows installed on the second floor, but a good wood window that Gelled One does make, and Marvin Wood Ultimates do it too. They have a warranty that's comparable to the aluminum-clad, and it's a wood window. So you'd be replacing wood with wood if you want to pursue that. But most of the sashes are repairable. Unfortunately, it can be hard to find people to do the work on this, and that's why Double Hung is around. And like I said, they did all of the ones. They took them all out. They covered them with plywood, took them to the shop, brought them back, and installed them. So I'm just putting a couple of points out there from my perspective on historic wood windows.
I don't think that we'll wait and talk.
Yeah, we can. Any other questions, comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak in favor or against this item? Seeing none, Commissioner deliberation.
Once again, I don't think we need to open this can of worms.
I agree.
It's going to open the door to more, and we have said no.
Ms. Wilson?
We've said no, and it opens the door for more to come in and
Replace wood windows with aluminum, and we've been really strong about that.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a problem with this. The only thing I was thinking, because it was approved in '98, the other ones, that you're kind of, you're not going to,
Yeah.
it's a kind of an awkward spot to now say no when it was approved in '98 to do the second floor in aluminum, and then say, no, you can't, you need wood there.
Yeah.
But what Chris said, those are not in such great shape either, so maybe that's not as much of a consideration.
Mm-hmm. But, and I think it was last meeting or the one before that, there was another, so Gelled One does make a wood window. So if they want to go with not doing repair, I can get behind that, but many companies make a good durable, you just get a really solid coat of paint and do maintenance, figure out how to deal with this neighbor, and try to get them to come along to your way of thinking that, you've got a historic, absolutely beautiful building. Like I love every aspect of all the buildings around this church. If they could just somehow be compelled through, with a carrot, somehow just to have them understand that, this amazing historic structure and it just requires some maintenance. And even those trees, if you could talk to that neighbor about those. But anyways, the repair, I would be repairing these. I don't think it's absolutely required because it's not, they're not, some sashes need to be replaced and maybe you just want to go ahead and replace the entire thing. I don't like doing replacements because again, I could write a book. These wood windows, they have these counterbalance weights. Any carpenter with even moderately good skills can maintain these things forever. These new wood windows, they have these strings for balances and strings and springs and very thin string at that. And if you can avoid it, you don't replace them. But admittedly, it's hard to find the people, and I would just encourage them to check with a company called Double Hunk, because maybe they can come in and give them a quote that's going to beat what they have for replacement of this window or even a wood window.
Except for this purpose, we either approve or deny the aluminum, and then whatever they decide to do is a separate issue.
Yeah, okay. Right, that's a good point.
I move to deny the request window installation for the property located at 120.
I'm sorry, if we deny, I want to see if there's an opportunity that do we want to ask that they consider a wood replacement instead of, because we could deny it and then they have to go back to square one, or we could go ahead as a part of this and approve a wood replacement window, 6/6.
Or they could repair, and they could
Right.
work with staff on repair or replacement with a wood window.
Mm-hmm. And the rot resistance too. As long as these things get maintained, and maintenance is everything, no building cannot not be maintained. I mean, you have to do the maintenance, but the other thing real quick, if the paint wouldn't have, it's got a odd orientation, the sun can't hit this and even dry it out, the trees shade it, and they causes all these problems from lack of maintenance. But you do the restoration on these things like is done all the time. You get a good coat of paint, and then you just go out there about maybe every 8 or 10 years and do a simple touch up and coat them with paint. But the durability of that dense old heart pine or old growth wood it just can't be, it really can't be beat. So yet, I think they could, again, I personally don't mind the idea of replacing with wood windows. If they want to pursue that, I would encourage them to at least consider working with staff or call Double Hung and try to get an alternate quote for doing a restoration on these.
So you think we should not deny, but continue, or just?
In-kind replacement with windows would be a minor, so we can do it staff, they want to.
That's bypass.
That's a bypass.
All right.
Deny this, then.
Therefore, yeah, okay.
To deny the request, Winston installation of property located at 125 South 3rd Street. The request is inconsistent with the Wilmington Design Standards for Historic and Landmarks based on the evidence provided, including the application and all attachments, testimony presented during the evidentiary hearing, and the staff report.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion denied.
Motion denied. Yeah. Thanks. So are we at the last item? We don't even need a break for these 10 items. It's amazing. Yeah.
I think we're good.
All right. Yeah, we're definitely not going to take a
Hold
break.
your
Yeah.
throat.
Thank you. Yeah, we can do it.
After. Okay.
The Gibbon Lodge, number 2, located at 19 North 8th Street, is a contributing resource to the Wilmington Historic District and a local historic landmark. As such, all revisions to the building facades and sites are subject to design review to ensure compliance with the district's historic preservation guidelines. According to the Wilmington Historic District Boundary Expansion and Additional Documentation Report, the Gibbon Lodge number 2 is a simple 3-story Italianate-style building with a low-pitched hip roof. The building features pilasters and is stucco over brick. The applicant proposes to to remove all windows and casings on the second floor, remove one window and casing on the third floor, and replace window openings with plywood and infill with stucco. The applicant proposes the infill windows due to the cost of in-kind replacement and the privacy concerns that they must adhere to during meeting engagements. Please see the precedent images of lodges that do not have window access. The staff notes these observations. The ground floor windows have been filled with stucco material. The second floor existing wood windows are in a state of disrepair with several missing panes and the entire sashes. If the commission elects to approve this proposal, the staff recommends the following recommendations. Detailed measurements of the existing windows shall be taken prior to the removal to allow the reconstruction at some future time, and any existing windows found to be in a salvageable condition shall be saved for refurbishment and reinstallation at some point in the future. Any questions?
Can you remind us with the landmark status, what does that do for a building? Why would someone pursue that? What are the benefits of having a landmark building?
I think this applicant pursued it for a local landmark for grant opportunities on a national level, and also the Historical Wilmington Foundation kind of moved them to do that locally here.
Okay.
Yeah.
They were approved for that, weren't
Yes, they were.
Okay.
So they are locally landmark recognized. They do have that destination.
So with it being a landmark, the changes to it are very limited.
It's a bit of like
True.
a covenant, yeah.
Right. It falls under the local guidelines as we do here with this procedure.
Okay. Anything else? No. Thank you. Would the applicant like to come forward to add to the presentation or answer any questions? If you could state your name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Eric Lee from Gibbon Lodge number 2. My address is 369 Eastwood Lane. Our purpose is, if you see the far right window on the second floor, that is the particular look we were going to be going for. The contractors that we spoke with were looking to leave the ledging as it is, because right now, if you were to look at it or blow it up, you could see that the window frame kind of sits, well, what we have with the stucco kind of sits back and it leaves a ledge there. If we could do the second floor windows in that manner, that would help with the preservation of this building. Right now, the only person that, or only company that was able to give us an actual quote was Pella, and that was $56,000, and that's just the window. That's not.
So tell me about that real quick, because I knew that there was at some point you had received a price of around $50,000. It was noted, it's been a couple of years, but was that for restoration? $50,000?
The $50,000 were for replacing the windows. That was just the windows, period, from Pella.
So you said 56.
It's $56,000 is what the windows came out to.
With
total
the actual,
windows.
just the materials cost of the windows was $56,000.
For
Yes.
all of the windows or just the second floor?
We calculated that all of the windows, because the windows on the third floor, and forgive me, but I'm just coming into this probably two and a half years. I'm not sure when they did the windows on the third floor, but when we talked to Aaron from Pella, he informed us that whoever has put those windows in, his suggestion would be to have those windows removed and put the
Install his product.
Install his product, correct, and run with that, because he says what it looks like there is they got the windows, and it still has the window world markings on it, but they built the casing to make that window fit.
Right.
And it doesn't have any gases in between the two panes, and it's just glass.
So the third floor, some of those windows are more contemporary, they're newer.
Correct. Those are the windows, like I said, I'm coming in on this probably 2.5 years.
Not all of them? Some of the third floor?
The third floor windows, except for the third floor, the 8th Street side, because they didn't get a window for that, which befuddled us all.
Yeah.
That it's just still the same original window there.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Okay.
With that being said, we're trying to, get the building up to par and renovate it and save it as the historical site that it is.
So you've only had Pella, or you've only had one company come out and they only priced replacing windows. No one has ever priced restoring the existing windows, repairing and restoring.
Because we reached out to Window World, we reached out to, what's the other?
Okay.
I think it was J-Lab or something like that.
The Historic Wilmington Foundation has you're familiar with the Historic
Yes.
Wilmington Foundation? They have a, can't remember what they call it. It's something like a preferred contractors network that does everything from roofing, paint, and everything in a historically sensitive manner.
And we did reach out to them, and all of the vendors that they gave us were saying no.
Okay.
Because it's historical, and they didn't want to deal with the pressures of having to keep the dimensions and the architect the way it is.
So you reached out to folks to do a repair or a replacement?
Repair and or replacement.
Okay.
And even if they were to repair or go about repairing the, I think the frame of the window and the divider between the two, upper and lower, and they were saying it would be best to go with aluminum clad, which that's what we were going to go with anyway, because the wood on it is, I mean, this building was 1871, and I don't.
Right.
For us, I don't think that trying to get this window redone or refurbished would be in our best interest, because we'll be looking right back at it again in a few years.
I could write a book.
Yeah, I've heard that from you.
I don't agree with that at all.
Have you looked at storm windows?
Excuse me?
Have you looked at storm windows?
We've looked at several categories of windows from.
I'm
like
talking
I
about
said,
storm windows.
Yes.
Just to cover them.
Just a cover. And I haven't heard back from Aaron as of yet because of what he's involved in right now. And right now, our project is really on the back burner.
Are you looking, so you're looking at, so right now, all you're applying for is to remove every window on the second floor and cover them with plywood and stucco over it?
Cover it, stucco it, seal it, and have it look like the far window, yes. And for the record, and I guess you guys have already heard this, most Masonic buildings, if you have a window, it's the front door glass and the foyer, and that's the extent of that.
So, but in a perfect world, if you could make this thing work out financially, would the Giblin Lodge be interested in entertaining fully restoring all the windows here, and then you just put blinds on the interior for the privacy, whatever kind of blind you may want, and storm windows on the exterior for some additional protection?
That's on the table as well.
Okay.
Whatever we can do to get this project up and done.
Yeah.
Because
Is water coming in right now?
I'm sorry?
Is water coming in right now? Are they leaking?
That's my next thing. So we've plastered from the inside, and we had two guys that were supposed to go pick the plywood up, and we were going to attach it from the inside with the plastic over it so that it wouldn't rain into the building like it is right now. Because the plastic itself in the storms that we've been having, it's just tearing the plastic up and leaving the debris right inside the building.
Yeah.
Do you know what this building was historically?
This building was a library historically at one point. That's what they were using it for African Americans to go there and learn how to read and have books there for them.
Yeah, I mean, it's in that regard and so many others, it's such an iconic building that's,
I would hate to see it
yeah,
stuccoed.
needs some care, obviously. And you replaced the roof not
The
too
roof
long ago?
Yes, the roof had been replaced.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, anyways, anyone else have any questions or anything to add from you, Eric?
No. I don't have anything else to add.
I think stuccoing is a waste of money and time and
again, it's a landmark, and that
landmark, and
implies
dangerous.
a
If
covenant.
there's a fire, how you know.
Oh, geez, I hadn't thought about that. Fire
Yeah, I
department
mean,
will
you've
hate
got, if you look down the middle, you've got the fire escape right there, the ladder, and,
And that ladder as well
Yeah, no,
is in
I'm
need
not
of being
hanging on
removed
that.
oh,
due to the
it's so
status
beautiful.
that it's in. You got a piece of it hanging in the second floor window that's adjacent to it. I think, yes, if you're going from my left, it'll be the second window. And we're just trying to do what we can to keep this going.
Stephen, you felt like you were going to say something?
Oh, I'm just thinking out loud here. I mean, okay, on 3rd Street, that big brown house that was in terrible shape, the one we approved, the carport, they had those windows rebuilt, and it was Cardinal or something like that, but I was trying to figure out the company, but I know the companies are out there that do rebuild these historic windows. I just don't know off the top of my
Cape
head.
Fear Carpentry does. Mike Exley Custom Woodwork rebuilds window sashes. Yeah, there are a handful of people in town, and I don't know if these people are on that preferred vendor list with Historic Wilmington Foundation, but I think there needs to be another discussion with someone, because that's the conduit, that's the between Giblin Lodge and your organization and some direction on how to get this done right, that honors the building and takes care of it because of the landmark status too. I think there needs to be a different kind of discussion with Historic Wilmington Foundation about this, and maybe not with necessarily staff or board, but I think Historic Wilmington Foundation, it has gone to bat, and they've done a lot, obviously, with trying to get some things done now it's like this other level of thing. We can't forget about this building, but I think there needs to be some more consultation with them and sit down and try to find some other solutions for this.
Well, the last communication we had with the Historical Society, that was Stephanie Bolton, I think it was at the time.
Isabel. Was it Isabel? Oh, no, Stephanie.
I know Travis did a lot for this building.
Yeah.
Travis, I'm sure, would love to come
Travis
back and
Gilbert,
assist
I
with it.
remember him. And he moved on, but what was conveyed to us is, it's your building, do what you want to do with it. But then when we reached out to start pulling permits, and that's how we got involved with Ms. Davis. We were just misled that, okay, whatever you want to do, it's your building, just do it in I guess, the best manner that you can, but that proved not to be true. And I spoke with, I think it's Bill Stokes, which is he may be the person that replaced Travis. And and like I said, I reached out to Ms. Bolton. She never returned my call. I reached back out to Mr. Schultz, and he was adamant that he would get her to give me a return call or even answer my emails. But all that went for naught. So all the good work that I will say Travis and others have done is greatly appreciated.
Is this a nonprofit?
Yes.
Have you considered reaching out to the New Hanover County Endowment for funding for a project like this? Because that's what all this comes down to. It all comes down to money. Whether we're repairing the windows or replacing the windows or filling them in, all this stuff is expensive. So we kind of beat around the bush, but we need to find out ways to find the financing to do these projects.
Correct.
And that's,
Yeah,
I
that's a
wanna
good
go on
point. I
rant,
hadn't
but
thought
we
about
need-
that, Ross.
That's what we need to be more productive about up here, is not saying yes or no, but actually finding solutions.
Yeah, the endowment's a great
endowment's
idea.
there. The endowment has money.
Okay.
I don't know if someone here can connect you with the endowment to go through the application process. In the meantime, I don't know if we have any creative solutions to help preserve the integrity of the building temporarily so that it doesn't get stuccoed over. But I think that, in my mind, is probably the best local solution we have right now to acquire that sort of funding.
Okay. And we'll look into that.
Yeah, how this has all come about, I think if we could get a meeting with someone from Historic Wilmington Foundation to come and meet with staff and figure out the next path forward, and I think, I hadn't thought about the endowment, but that's a phenomenal idea. I would love to see the endowment, thinking about something like this project especially, in particular, to do the right thing with the building.
Correct.
Okay, all right, I think we need to open it up for discussion, the public portion. Thank you. Is there anyone else here that would like to speak in favor or against this item? Seeing none, if you could, we'll move to commissioner deliberation on it.
I agree with Ross.
Yeah,
I think by, denying or approving is almost half-baked. We're not there. And I think maybe there's more solutions
Yeah.
before we get to that.
yeah, not everyone out there has
Commissioners,
expertise.
you need to have discussions in your microphone.
I think maybe.
Sorry.
Continuing to get them get more,
Not continuing the item, but continuing to work with
Yeah.
the lodge and working on some solutions, yeah. Because it's a landmark, and even if it wasn't a landmark property, it's
That
in
makes
the
it worse,
district,
though.
and now we're talking about like removing windows and covering them up, and so, yeah, it's kind of a non-starter right there. There's another path forward, and this cannot be the one.
I don't even think code would let you do it with fire.
With, the lack of,
Yeah.
Thought about that, but I think you're right.
Do you know who we need to put them in touch with?
I think
At the endowment?
Travis could come out of his, he still lives in town, he's in
And
Wilmington.
Travis could get you hooked up with who you need to.
And other people at Historic Wilmington Foundation, and maybe someone at staff,
Yeah,
Mr.
We
Riegler.
will definitely facilitate a meeting with the Historic Wilmington Foundation and then put them in contact with the correct parties with the endowment.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Would someone like to make a,
What do we do about the motion then? Because
somebody needs to
are
make
we
a motion.
denying it?
I don't know, we're about to find out. Let's keep going. Someone want to make a motion?
But we're not, we're just saying we're letting it go for now.
No, I think we're
Denying it.
And they'll work with you.
I
Yeah.
can't vote in favor of this. I mean, if this is to come up for a motion or a vote, I can't support the application.
Okay. I move to deny the request for infill windows at the property located at 19 North 8th Street. The request is inconsistent with Wilmington design standards for historic districts and landmarks based on the evidence provided, including the application and all attachments, testimony presented during the evidentiary hearing and the staff report.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion does not pass.
If you get with staff, they can
Yeah, Monica and Brian Chambers.
facilitate, that's what they do, and facilitate getting you the resources.
Yeah, this
to
community wants to
save
see this
property.
work out. Are there any items from the commission? Okay, I want to state real quick, I wasn't going to say this at all if we went till 10 o'clock, but the Public Archaeology Corps is still at 10 South Front Street. They have an extended amount of time to be there in the 1750s level right now. Every Saturday from 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. I just read today a history of everything they have discovered out of this site and what it means for the history of downtown Wilmington. It's fascinating. So every Saturday they're there from 9 to 3, and it's worth a visit. Fascinating group of folks, and amazing the things that they're excavating out of there.
9 to 3.
9 to 3 every Saturday. Any items from staff? Nope.
No, sir.
Someone like to make a motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Thank you.